All right, for this recording, this is the tables and chairs drawing that you will be completing. Those are the dimensions. They're there just for your reference. You do not need to draw them. If I go to AutoCAD, I just want you to see what it would look like when it's all drawn. So we will begin, and usually it's a good idea to kind of look at the drawing and ask yourself where to start. And in this point, 0, 0 is a good starting point. Even though there is no line there, I'm going to show you how to do this fillet command so you have a rounded corner. But if you look at the overall dimensions of this table, it is 2'8" wide by 5 feet 4 inches long. And by the way, that's done on purpose. Half of 5'4" is 2'8", so that you can get 2 square tables out of this. And that's how I'm going to approach this drawing over here, making it a square. All right, so I'll start with that, 2'8" by 5'4", and I'll go to my AutoCAD drawing and begin. So I'm going to go to my start menu. I'm going to click on the down arrow for new, and I'm going to use my template so that everything is all set up. And then from here, I will just go ahead and start drawing my lines. So I'm going to type, before I draw anything, make sure you save your drawing. So save as. Type it into the keyboard, enter, or come up here to the application button and go to save as and save your drawing using the file name as shown in the assignment. So once you do that, then begin drawing the lines. So I'm going to start with a line, L, enter. I'm going to start this at 0, 0, enter. My ortho is still on, so I'm just going to draw the line in this direction. It's going to be 2 feet 8, enter. And I can see that I can keep going on my screen here, so I might as well. So that's going to be 5 feet 4, enter. And then I am still using O-Track. You can see down here, it's turned on. So I want to draw this line over here, but instead of typing the distance, I'm going to track this endpoint right here. Let it find the endpoint. I'm just going to move my cursor up and then let it track it and click. Once I see that X right there. And then to finish it, I am going to use the close option. So I'm going to type C. You can see right there on your command line, and then enter. And what that does is it closes this out, the 4 lines. So it ends right where it begins. So that is my table. I just want to double check my dimensions, 2'8" by 5'4". Go to my quick measure, 2'8" by 5'4". Great. Tapping the escape key, and I will now continue. I want to show you something over here in the drawing I have open. You'll see that when I zoom in and out, notice that UCS icon. It's right over here in the corner. It's not attached to that 0, 0 point. I want to show you how to change that because what I'm about to do is it's going to be helpful if I don't have that UCS icon right there. So I'm going to go back to my drawing and I'm going to type in UCS icon. I don't even have to finish. I'll just click right here. And I have some options. Yes, I do want it on, but I do not want it at the origin. So I'm going to click no origin. And that means not at 0, 0, but on and sitting in the lower left-hand corner of my screen. If I zoom out, notice how it doesn't move. But this is still my 0, 0 point right there. All right, going to continue now. I will use my fillet option. Fillet will give me the rounded corners. If I go to my example, that rounded corner, it's a 4-inch radius. So I'll introduce the command and then I'm going to show you a quick way of doing it. So just watch this. That way you're not repeating. Just get a look at how this command works. So F for fillet, enter. And then it doesn't show you anything on screen, but if you look at the command line, it says radius equals 0 right now. I need to change that. So I'm going to type R and enter. And I want to set that to 4 inches. So I type 4 and enter. And then it says, go ahead and pick the lines. So I pick this line and this one, for example. And see how it's starting to give me the rounded corner, which is great. And then it takes me right out of that command. I could, if I want, enter to repeat the command. And this time I want to type M for multiple. So M, enter. And I pick this line and then this one. And then I can keep going. Notice how it keeps me in the command. So that went quick, but I want to show you an even quicker way of doing that. So let me tap the escape key and then undo. So I'm going to come up here and undo until I'm back to my 4 right angle corners. Great. All right, here I go. I want to join the lines to create one polyline. So I'm going to select all of them first like this, and then type J and enter. And when I do that, I now have one polyline. Next, I'm going to use the fillet command. So I type F, enter. My radius, because I use the undo button, it doesn't remember the radius. So I'm going to type in the radius. R, enter. I'm going to set that to 4, enter. And then I'm going to select the polyline option because this is now a polyline. So I'm going to type P, enter. And I'm selecting it. And look at that. I click on it, and all 4 corners are taken care of at once. That's the quick way of doing it. You're more than welcome to not create the polyline and do all of them individually, and then join them afterwards. Or not join them at all. It's up to you. It's just, for me, I prefer this method. So that's the table. So I go back to my example. The next thing I want to do is show the representation of chairs that are tucked in under the table. So I have 6 chairs, but I'm going to draw just one, and then I'm going to use my modify commands to put the other ones in. So I'm going to start up here with this table, or this chair. Let me zoom in a little bit. And the way this drawing was put together, the dimensions, I did this on purpose so that you had to look around the drawing to get all the dimensions. So the chair, the width of the chair, I don't see the width here, but I see it on the side. It's 1'6". The chair is sitting out 6 inches from the table, and the backrest is 2 inches thick. And you see that it says 1'4" to the center line, which basically means it's also going to be 1'4" to the center line here as well. So it's centered on there. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. With those dimensions in mind, 6 inches and 2 inches and 1'6", here I go. I'm going to zoom in up here. One method, and then I'm going to show you a second method. I'm going to draw a line, so L, enter. And I'm going to let it go from the midpoint. I have that as a running object snap. Check and make sure you do too. I give this one click, and I take it up, I type 6, and I enter. And then I enter again to terminate the command. I know that my chair width is 1'6". If I convert that to just inches, that would be 18 inches. So half of 18 is 9. So I need to offset this line 9 inches to the right and to the left. So I type in O, enter. Distance, 9, enter. Selecting the line, offsetting it to the right. Selecting the line, offsetting it to the left. Enter. This line segment, I click on it, and I delete it because it has served its purpose. And then I draw a line, L, enter, from this endpoint to that endpoint. Enter. And then I will go ahead and offset or copy. That could work too, but I'll type O for offset. Enter. I type in 2. I enter. I select the line. And I offset it down in this direction. And I click. Enter. Done. Now let me show you another way that I would do it. Second option here. Let me go ahead and undo everything. Okay. I have object snap tracking turned on. And just as a reminder, these are my object snaps. And here I go. L, enter. I pause at the midpoint, and then I move my cursor to the right so it begins to track. And I want to type in 9 and enter. So I have tracked the point from the midpoint over 9 inches. I want to take this line up 6 inches, so I type in 6, enter. I know in this direction it is 1 foot 6, so I type in 1 foot 6 and I enter. I bring the line down and I go ahead and track this endpoint over, and once I get that apparent intersection, I click and then I enter. And I'll zoom in a little bit closer. And the next line I want to put in, yes, I could copy or I can offset, but to reinforce practicing object tracking, I'm going to type in L, enter. I'm going to hover at this endpoint, no clicking, just hovering. Move my cursor down slowly, type in 2 and enter. Take it across, and then track that endpoint down here and click. Right click, enter, terminates the command. So that is a couple of ways of putting in the chair. All right, for this next step, I'm going to turn on polar tracking. Just give it a click down here, and it's going to turn off ortho. That's fine. And then go to the drop down, the arrow, and make sure you have it set to 45 degrees. Click off of that, come over here, and what I want to do is I want to mirror this chair over to the right. So I'll zoom in right about here. So I'm going to type MI, enter for mirror. And I'm going to select my objects, enter. The first point of the mirror line is going to be the midpoint of this arc right here, and I give it one click. And then ortho's off. You can see how it's going to snap to a 45-degree angle. So I let it snap. I give it a click. Erase source object, no. And then I'm all set. I'm going to mirror this chair over to the other side, and I could, it's very easy. I'll show you. I'm going to type in MI, enter, and I can take it from here, enter, and just pick the midpoint and go straight down. That's one way to do it, and say no. But I want to keep practicing my polar, using the polar tracking. So I'm going to undo that, and I will come back to this chair. I'll type MI, enter, window, my objects, enter. Pick the midpoint of the arc, click on it, and then track at a 45, either towards the inside of the table or to the outside. As long as you have that 45-degree angle, you'll be fine, and give it a click. Erase the source object, no, so I'm just going to enter. And I have those chairs in place, and now it's just a matter of mirroring them to the other side. So back to the mirror command I go. I'll right click, recent input, there's mirror, it was already shown there, so I'll click. I'll select my objects. And I'm able to use this window, and it doesn't pick any part of the table because the table is a polyline. So the only way I can pick that table is if I can come right down here and include it in my window, but I'm not going to do that. So I'll click right here. I'll enter. And then I'll pick the midpoint of this line, and I'll take it over to the midpoint of that line. Give it a click. Erase source object, no. I enter. And I have my table. I didn't check my dimensions. Forgot to. But there we go. 2'8" by 5'4". All the dimensions are working out. Tap the escape key. Make sure you save. Either use Control S to save, type in save, or go up and use your icons. But make sure you're saving your drawing file. So I have that table all set. Going back to my example, I now want to put in this table. Now, don't get overwhelmed. It's simply a square table, and it's been rotated 45 degrees. So I'm not going to rotate it until the very end, but I am going to start with this 6-seat table as my template, if you will. So I'll go back to my AutoCAD drawing, zooming out a bit, panning over here because I want to place it in this area. I'm going to type copy, CP, enter, and select objects. Instead of using a window, this is all I have, so I'm going to type all, enter. And then I'm going to enter to terminate my selecting objects. And then I'll copy it from, sorry, what am I doing? This location, okay, over here. And it doesn't have to be straight across, but since I have polar tracking on, it's going to do that. So I'll just click right here. And then tap the escape key and continue. I'll zoom in a little bit more just to focus my attention here. Now, I don't need these 3 chairs over here, so I'm just going to window them like this and tap delete. And this needs to be a square table. So let me show you at least a couple of ways of doing this. First one, which is very, very straightforward, is the stretch command. So I'm going to type in S and enter. Select my objects. I'm going to type C so that I have a crossing window no matter what direction I go. I enter. And I just want to make sure that I select this area down here. That includes the arcs and those lines and those endpoints. And I click and I enter. And I want to move it up half that distance. So it would be half of 2 foot, half of 5'4", which is 2'8". I'll click right here. Sorry, my cursor's hanging up a little bit and I'm not sure what happened. So let me try again. S for stretch, enter. C for crossing, enter. I select those, enter, and I'll pick this point. One moment. And I'll move it up like this. And the distance I want it to go is 2 feet 8, and I enter. And that'll give me a square table. I can check my measurements. All right, tap the escape key. And then I'll just mirror this over. I'll select that chair. I'll type MI, enter, from this midpoint over to this midpoint, and enter. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, let me undo all of this. There we go. Is to simply just draw it out instead of using stretch command. So I want to draw a line. I'll type L, enter, and I'll take it from this midpoint over to this midpoint and enter. And now I could trim, but it's easier for me to use this command. I want to introduce it to you is the explode command. So I have a table here. It's made up of this polyline. So I'm going to select it and then I'm going to type X and enter. And what that'll do is it will explode it and break it down to the individual objects that I started with. And now I can go ahead and type T, enter, sorry, TR, enter, and I'll trim this line and this one, enter. Everything else I can erase, but I already have this chair over here, so watch this. I'll just take that, I'll enter, and I will enter again. Sorry, what am I doing? I cannot recall. 1 second. M. I may have used the wrong command. Apologies. M, enter. Select my objects, enter. From this midpoint over to this midpoint. All set. And then I can erase this information. And here's where it's kind of fun to use the shapes that you can when you select objects. So watch this. E, enter. And then I'm just going to click and drag my mouse and kind of work my way around like this to select all the objects there. And enter. Done. All right, and then these two corners, I'll just use the fillet command, F, enter. I'm looking at the radius. It is still set to 4. I'm going to type M for multiple, enter. I'll pick this one, and then here, and enter. And then I can join them. So if I'm real careful, I can window all the objects there, and then type J, enter, and I'm all set. So that's a couple of different ways of making that table. And yes, you could have started from scratch as well, but why do that when I already have some line work in place? All right. The next thing I want to do, and this is before rotating it, if I look at the example, the backs of these chairs are different and they're made up of arcs, and it has a 24-inch radius. And if you look down here, it says use the arc command, use the start and radius option for it. So I'll go back to my drawing, and I'm going to draw an arc, and I want start and radius. So where do I see that? Start and radius right here. Click on it. And the arcs get drawn in a counterclockwise direction. So I know that I have to start it here. So I click that as my start point. This would be the end point. And then move your cursor and you'll see how it changes the radius there. And all you have to do now is type in that distance. And for some reason, I am blanking out on it. 24 inches. All right. So 24, and I enter. All set. Now, all I have to do is copy this. So I'm going to type in CP, enter, select it, enter, from this endpoint down to this endpoint. Tap the escape key, and then this line and this one can go away. So I delete them just by tapping the delete key. So that's one, and I could repeat the others. I could copy them, I could mirror, but let me show you what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to take all of them, window them like this, and delete them. And I'm going to show you something a little on the sophisticated side here. I'm going to use my polar array command. So I'm going to come up here to my array, and I'm going to select polar array. I need to select my objects, so I select the objects right here, window them, and I enter. And then it says specify the center point of the array. I'm going to pause right here at the midpoint, track it straight down. Come over here, find this midpoint, track it straight across, and where those two meet is the intersection, and it happens to be the exact center, and I click. And it's giving me more than I want, and I want to change the items. Instead of 6, come up here, change that to a 4, and then just click anywhere else, and you'll see how it's changed. And they're currently set to be associative, meaning that they're all going to act as one, and that's fine. And I'll go ahead and close the array. And now when I hover over one of them, all of them are highlighted. And then the last thing to do is to rotate. So I type the keyboard command. Well, first, let me show you where it is. Home tab, modify panel, rotate. But I prefer the keyboard, so RO, enter. Select my objects. Just window all of them. Enter. I don't need to rotate about the middle. It can be from any point, so I'll just randomly click right here. And I want to rotate that 45 degrees. And I'm still using my polar tracking, so I just have to give this a click. I'm all set. So that takes care of that smaller table. And then we have one more to go. So let me go ahead and draw this one. I'm going to use the array command also, polar array. And that table has a 1'6" radius, and the chairs have an 8-inch radius. So let me go back to my drawing. I'm going to draw a circle. So I'll just type in C, enter. I'm going to click somewhere here, and I'll accidentally be a little too close to the drawing. I'm doing this on purpose. I'll click here, and that needs to have a radius of 1'6", enter. See how I'm really close? Again, on purpose, so that I can show you how to grip that circle, and then just use this center grip here, give it a click, and you're basically stretching, even though you can't stretch a circle, but you're basically stretching / moving it out of the way. So I'll just click it right here. Okay. Tap the escape key, and I'll zoom in right here on that circle. The next thing I want to do is drop in this stool, and that has an 8-inch radius. And just know that the center of that radius is right here at this location, and it's referred to as the quadrant point on a circle. So I'm going to drop that in now. If I grip the circle, you'll see that it contains these 4, that's the name quadrant, those 4 points, quadrants here. So that's what I want to use. So I'm going to tap the escape key, and I'll zoom in a little bit closer right here to this quadrant point. I'm going to type in C again, and I will enter. And it says specify the center point. Now, I want it to snap to that quadrant, but I don't have it as a running object snap. And because I don't have that, it's okay. I need to shift right click. Shift right click gives you this pop-up menu. And from here, I can override my running object snaps, and I click on the one that says quadrant. And when I do that, I give it a click, and you look at your command line, it says quadrant of, that's the abbreviation. Quadrant of what? Quadrant of this point right here, and it finds it. And here, let me just zoom out for a second. Look at how it doesn't find any endpoint or midpoint at all, because I have forced it to look for a quadrant point. Click on it, and then bring it out and type 8 and enter. All set. Again, that was a shift right click. I'll do this one more time. C for circle, enter. Shift right click. And then override your running object snaps and pick any one you want. So quadrant, and see it'll find any one of those 4 quadrants. Tap the escape key. I just wanted you to see that. All right, next thing to do is I need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these stools around the table. So I'm going to use my polar array. You might ask yourself, hey, what about this circle? It needs to be trimmed. It does, but I'm doing this on purpose so that I can show you something here. I should trim it, and if you want to, please go ahead and do it. I will go to my array dropdown. I'm going to select polar array. I'm going to select the circle. I enter, and it says specify the center point. Well, I don't have center as a running object snap. So once again, shift right click opens up this menu, and I select center from here. And as long as I'm near the edge of my circle, or put myself right in the middle, it'll find the center. I give it a click. And it has dropped in 6 items. But I want to change that to 5 items. 5 it is. Click anywhere else. We'll see what it does. Great. It's associative. And then I will go ahead and close the array. Done. But again, I did this on purpose. I did not trim that line. And I want to do that now. So here's what I need to do. And I'm doing this just, good practice for all of us. So I'm going to click on one of these circles. And by clicking on one, it launches this polar array editing mode, or that ribbon. And then from here, I want to select this option to edit source. One click, and then it prompts to select item in the array. I'll pick this item here. One click, and you notice how all of them turn to a shade of blue, and this is the only one that's active right now. And now what I'd like to do is edit this one. First of all, tap the escape key one time. And notice how it lightens them up even more. So now I can just focus on this one circle. And now I can go ahead and type in TR for trim and enter. And I'll just click on this segment here. And by trimming that one segment, and then I enter, notice how it trims the others. Because it's an associative array, what I do to one, it does it to the other four. When I'm done, I need to come up here where it says Edit Array and save my changes. Click on that, and I'm all set. Again, I did it on purpose to show you how you can edit an array, but you can go ahead and trim and then make your array so that you don't have to do that. But it's kind of fun to practice. Make sure you save the drawing. You're all set, save it, and exit. Or if you're ready to exit, you can just go ahead and click on the X, and it will prompt you, would you like to save your changes? And you'll say yes, and make sure you have it under the correct file name. And before you exit, I should say, go ahead and type in Z enter, E enter, zoom extents. And I do this all the time because when you do save your file and you exit, it takes a snapshot. And you want to make sure that you're capturing the extent of your file so that when you see that snapshot, that thumbnail, it'll show you everything in your drawing file. So zoom extents, save, exit, and you're all set. Okay, thanks.